You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Okay, we're back. I'm Jeff, and this is Kyle,
Hello.
and we are The Bible Guys.
That's right, we're The Bible Guys.
This week, anyway.
Yes,
we
yes.
are. Chris is out of town, and so I have the great privilege of being with Kyle Daubenmeier. Kyle is a good leader and a good Bible guy.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be fun today.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah. So we have to talk about this in fun and practical ways.
Yes,
You heard the
exactly.
roll in.
Yep,
So
exactly.
let's do it to it.
So one of the things, we've been talking about was, Moses. We read earlier this week, Moses, he's passed, epic life.
Yes.
And so, we've been talking a little bit about our ministry experiences. You and
That's
I both.
right, because Moses and us were very, very similar, you and me.
Yes.
The three of
Easy
us.
comparison.
Yeah, easy comparison.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you a few questions actually about my ministry experience and see if you know me very well. And I know Jeff,
yeah.
I swear he remembers everything he reads or sees. So this may be easier for him, but I'm going to try to I'll keep an easy one. Okay. We'll start off with an easy one.
So you're going to ask
Yes.
your ministry history questions
yes.
to see how well I know you.
And I'll probably stick with true and falses that sort of thing. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
well, this is assuming I've been paying attention.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Who knows?
Okay.
And yeah, some of these you'll be like,
What was your name again? Remind me?
Carl.
Yeah.
You just introduced me wrong. No. Okay. So first things first. And hey, hopefully you're paying attention earlier. But when I was, did I feel called into ministry when I was younger? Like when I was growing up, was there ever a time where I felt called into ministry?
Felt called into ministry. I know you resisted being called into ministry when you were young. Did you feel called?
No. Yeah, I think you were paying attention to an episode or two ago. That's good.
Right.
So yeah,
so you didn't feel called.
No.
Right.
It wasn't until I was older. I was actually 22 on a missions trip to West Virginia. And the church I was a part of, I was serving as a high school leader.
Wow.
And had no interest ever before that. Just like you, I was like,
there you go.
Resistant to the whole idea for sure.
Good.
Okay.
Well, that was good then. I knew that one.
Yeah. What
Okay.
year did I start at Heritage Church?
What year? Oh, no. You've been here.
This is a tough one.
Well, see, COVID messes everything up.
It does. COVID was what? 18 years ago? It feels like.
Yeah, hang on a second. I know this one. Have you been with us 8 years? 9 years? 7 years?
7 years.
7 years.
Just circling. Yep.
Okay, I knew it was close there.
Yeah.
So then that would be 2017.
Good
Okay.
year. Yes, it was a good year.
Yeah, I was trying to. So I offered you a job when my son was getting ready to marry your sister.
Yep.
And so I was trying to remember how long have they been married.
Yeah. That's why I knew that might be
That's why I was trying to do that. Yeah.
What year was it? 2017.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But that was a great year.
Good.
I mean, there was a lot of transitions, a lot of things, in 2017 and 2018 that God was, I think, testing and challenging with Heritage.
Right.
But also a lot of great things. There was the kids space, there was the youth space, and also that's when I started. So a lot of great things happened that year.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. So I was a youth pastor for 10 plus years. Did I ever leave a student on a trip? Accidentally leave a
Did you
student
ever
on a trip?
leave a student?
Actually,
I'm almost positive you did.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't you?
No, I did
You
not.
never left
Actually,
a
that's
student?
one thing I pride.
No,
Man, I
so
pride myself on
Zarbaugh
that.
did.
Yeah,
I know
sure
Zarbaugh did.
Yeah. Did you ever leave? Because you were a youth pastor for a long time. Did you
I
ever
never
leave?
did.
No.
So I threatened to leave. I told everybody if you weren't on time, I'll pull away and leave.
Yeah.
And there's been more than one time I was driving to the front of the parking lot when somebody come running,
Oh yeah.
But we weren't actually going to leave.
Yeah. When I think back on that, I was kind of a jerk sometimes, but some of it for good reason. We go on these mission trips, cross country, be driving. You're hauling 40, 50 people with you, and you're just thinking, we're getting in the car. Use the bathroom now.
Right.
By the time we get in the car, we're not stopping. These big vans. And if you know who Connor Mead is, feel free to give him a shout out because that kid, it'd be an hour down the road. He'd be like, I have to use the bathroom. And I'd be like, nope.
No.
And I did not win any favor with his parents for a period of time there. But Connor Mead, smallest bladder on the trip for a while there. So, man.
But so for me, I've always been, I hate being a minute late.
Yeah. Okay.
Hate it.
Yeah.
Hate being a minute late. So I always shoot for being 5-10 minutes early. And then if I say, well, sometimes, and you've been a part of this before, sometimes where there's traffic problems out on the road or whatever, and people come say, hey, we need to start the service, 5 minutes late. And I'm like, no, we start on time.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
It's just a frustrating thing for people. So as a youth pastor, I was like, if I say we leave at 5, I do not mean we leave at 5:15 or 5:05.
That's the youth pastor thing,
I will
too,
leave
right?
you at 5 o'clock, right? And your mom and dad will have to figure out how to get you home or whatever. Yeah. And my kids were always just scared enough that I really would do it, that I never had to leave anybody.
So I just want to brag for a minute, just because you understand the challenge of this and the youth when you're hauling people across country. I made an agenda. This is, 8-9 years ago, coming home from Nashville, Tennessee with a group of students, and I made an agenda 3 months before the trip, and that I gave to the parents, where I said I'd be home on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. or whatever the time was, 4:30 p.m. on Saturday. I had made that agenda. We pulled into the parking lot at 4:30 p.m. Literally, and you're talking, we stayed in a hotel the night before.
Yeah.
We got a couple gas breaks along the way.
That's impressive.
We stopped and got gas off the exit off 696, and I was like, I told people 4:30. And to me, it's funny because,
of course, doing 95 miles an hour in a bus is not a good way to do that. But
But I was pretty proud of myself.
No, you obeyed the speed limits and got them there. Good job.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Hey, man.
So you didn't have to leave anybody. Do you have another one?
Yeah, I'll give you another one. I'll just a true or false question, and this is for anybody who pays attention to famous mega church pastors. True or false that I met Stephen Furtick?
You met Stephen Furtick? Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that is false.
And you are right. Good job.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, never met him. No.
Okay.
No, I think he's a good speaker, but I've not actually. But actually, I don't think I've even been to a conference. Maybe I did. I went to one that had Craig Rochelle and him were the headlining speakers, which I'd like to meet Craig Rochelle. That'd be cool, right?
Yeah, he's a great leader.
He'd probably give you like 5 minutes of nuggets of wisdom. And
great leader.
Yes, great.
Yeah. Well, good. Hey, that was very interesting.
Yes.
And I think I got three out of 4.
Yep. You assumed I left a kid at
I assumed you left one. But I remember Zarbaugh did. And I'm thinking, as youth pastors, if you haven't almost left a kid, you're not that good of a youth pastor.
Exactly. You're not trying hard enough.
Did you ever almost?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, good. Well, hey, now Moses, in this as we're going through the key passages throughout the Old Testament, we've gone through Genesis through Deuteronomy, which are called the books of Moses. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the last couple words in the book of Deuteronomy, Moses didn't write about his own death, right? So somebody buttons that up. Mm-hmm. I think the way that it's so kind to Moses and all those things, I bet you it was Joshua that helped write that. Or somebody like that, like Joshua. But then just before Moses dies at 120 years old, he lays hands on Joshua and he says, be strong and courageous. God's going to use you to lead the people into Israel, right? Or into the promised land. And there's going to be battles ahead. So you're going to have to be strong and courageous. Well, then now in Joshua chapter 1, very creative title to Joshua's book. It's called Joshua, and it's all about his leadership.
I love it.
And how God
Moses
uses
doesn't
him.
even mention his name.
That's
right?
right.
It's just so funny.
Right.
Joshua's like,
there's not the book of Moses anywhere, right? But there's Joshua has one book, and it's called Joshua.
Yep.
So in Joshua chapter 1, it says, after the death of Moses, the Lord's servant, the Lord spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant. He said, Moses, my servant, is dead. Therefore, the time has come for you to lead these people, the Israelites, across the Jordan River into the land I'm giving them. I promise you what I promised Moses. Wherever you set foot, you will be on land I have given you, from the Negev wilderness in the south to the Lebanon mountains in the north, from the Euphrates River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west, including all the land of the Hittites. No one will be able to stand against you as long as you live, for I will be with you as I was with Moses. I will not fail you or abandon you. Be strong and courageous, for you are the one who will lead these people to possess all the land I swore to their ancestors I would give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey the instructions Moses gave you. Do not deviate from them, turning either to the right or to the left. Then you will be successful in everything you do. Study this book of instruction continually. Meditate on it day and night, so you'll be sure to obey everything written in it. Only then you will prosper and succeed in all you do. This is my command. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go.
Yeah, wow. I love that.
It's my favorite, my favorite leadership passage in the whole Bible.
Oh my gosh.
Right there. Love it.
Yes. In fact, a lot of people, I know people like Joshua 1:9 is like a life verse, right? In so many ways. Well, I mean, you could really go this entire little section here,
Sure.
but for somebody who's looking for a life verse, if you're out there and you're like, man, I don't have a life verse, this is a good one to adopt, right? Just because, I mean, I think we could remember this on a daily basis, right?
Yep. I think we're quick to embrace the verse 9, be strong and courageous, and I'm going to bless you. And we forget, study this book of instruction continually, meditate on it day and night, so you'll be sure to obey everything written in it. Only then will you prosper and succeed in all you do. That is an unbelievable promise from God. So we like the be strong and courageous, and I'm going to make you successful. But God tells us He gives us the exact formula for being successful. And that is, use my words, meditate on them day and night, be careful to obey everything I've said. And only then will you be successful in everything you do. You know, there's very few times in the Bible God talks about being successful in everything we do. And two of them are when he talks to Joshua. Both times he has this kind of an argument, or this kind of if-then promise. It's not an argument. This kind of if-then promise. If you are meditating on my word, you're taking it in, you're memorizing it, you're learning it, you're building your entire life around it, you're making decisions all of your decisions based on what my words say. If you do that, and if you choose to obey me in everything that I say to do, then only then will you have the exact formula for success. So then, of course, you should be strong and courageous.
Yeah, and then even, Joseph, Old Testament Joseph, it says that the Lord was with Joseph and he succeeded in everything he did. And it's oftentimes you say, and he was successful. Well, the Lord was with him.
That's right.
Like the source of it was not Joseph. It was God being with him.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that stood out to me when I was reading over this the first time, I was just noticing the, let me see here. I love when he says to him, I promise you what I promised Moses. Wherever you set foot, you'll be on land I have given you. And I don't know, I just something about that is just so cool, because it just makes me think like, this is land I have given you. And I just like how he said, wherever you step foot. Like, I think he was going down to like the simplest form in a way of like your footsteps. Just, every footstep you take is the land that I have given you. And it's so just thinking about how that even applies, because obviously that was a command he gave, that was instructions he gave to Joshua. And, we shouldn't take the Bible right away and apply it to ourselves. Oftentimes, I think people mistake that when they read the Bible. They think it applies to, me here in America in 2024.
Sure.
First, you have to apply it to them. You have to apply it to their context, their life. What was God saying to those people? And after you then you take it and apply it.
Then you take the principles.
Principles, yes.
So this statement here is made directly to Joshua.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So he didn't say that directly to Jeff.
Yes, yeah.
He said it directly to Joshua.
Exactly.
But I can take the principles
100%
that he says, if you do these things, then I will do this for you. And I can take those principles and go, okay, well, then God's the same yesterday, today, and
100%.
forever. The way that God treated those leaders then, he will treat leaders today if we choose to do the same things, right?
Yeah, and with that, it just makes me think, though, that like when he's saying, wherever you step foot, this is the land I've given you. And how often do we take some of those things for granted, right? In our own lives,
Right.
And I've witnessed it too. You probably have with people you're talking to who just don't even realize that the land that they're walking on, the house they've been given, the job that they have, the family they have, almost taking it for granted, when it's like, well, God's like, wants to remind somebody today maybe that the things that you have, whether it's tangible things or the life you have or the things that are seen or unseen, that God has actually given it to you. It's the land he has given you. And so I think it was a really cool reminder, I'm sure, for Joshua. Instead of just thinking, he's a leader, he's probably thinking 12 steps ahead. And then God was bringing it down right to the simplest form, saying, hey, just, every step you take, this is mine. I've given it to you.
Right.
I provide, this is my provision that you have these things.
Yeah. So here they are now. They're in what is considered modern day Jordan, right? So they're on the east side of the Jordan River. I'm going to be in Jordan in 3 weeks.
Nice.
And I'll be right near this plain where they are, because Amman, Jordan's not very far from there. And so they're in modern day Jordan, and he's telling them everything from the Euphrates River, which is modern day Iraq, all of Jordan, everything from the mountains of Lebanon all the way down to the Negev, which is all the way down to the Red Sea into the Arabian Peninsula, right? That's a massive space, much larger than what Israel is today. God said, hey, I'm promising all of that to you if you'll go take it. So it's pretty amazing how the promises of God are available. But then they had to go defeat these enemies.
Yeah.
And we'll read through Joshua's life, and they defeated many of them. But they didn't defeat all of them, even though God had promised. And sometimes we're surprised by the fact that there are battles that have to be fought, that there's a struggle in the Christian life, right? But there's no victories without a battle. And we're always surprised by this. So he chooses Joshua as the leader. It's interesting. Joshua had already led the armies of Israel a couple of times, right? Against the Amorites, attacked them and a couple of others. And God had already used Joshua was kind of Moses's military guy. And so here they are. They've been wandering through the wilderness for 39 years, right? They've spent 1 year at Sinai. Then they wander through the wilderness for 39 years. Only Caleb and Joshua said as spies, hey, we should go in. God promised it. We can go take it. So 39 years ago, this leader said, we can take it. I believe God's going to give it to us. We can do it. So then everybody else is dead, including Moses. Moses also didn't push to go across the river, right? He just listened to the people. So everybody, except for Joshua and Caleb, they've all died. So now Joshua is the second oldest guy in the whole country. We know Caleb was older than Joshua. And he's standing up going, okay, because God gives him these 9 verses. Be strong and courageous, obey everything I've commanded, meditate on and I'll make you successful in everything you do. And then Joshua steps up and gives the same speech back to the people. Hey, God says awesome. if we follow him, he's going to give us our, right? As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord kind of mentality, right? That's not where he says it, but it's kind of that attitude that we're going to do the right thing and God's going to bless us. And he's ramping them up for this battle that's coming. And so they're lined up along the shore of the Jordan River, which in those days used to flood. And they're looking across the river. Now, remember, 39 years ago, 10 of the 12 spies came back and went, dude, look at the size of these grapes. The olives are incredible. The groves are amazing. The food is spectacular. The problem is they're all a bunch of giants. We're a bunch of runts. We look like grasshoppers in their sight. They are so much bigger and tougher and stronger. It's like a whole bunch of flyweights going in and have to fight against heavyweights, right? That's what they think is going to happen. We are going to get stomped if we go there. Well, nothing has changed except those cities are more fortified than they were 39 years ago, right? That's it. And the rumor has gotten out now that, the people of Israel are ready to cross the river. Looks like they're going to want to come over here. And so they're all ramping up their fortifications. They're all building, and we know this from the next story, Rahab, where they've been anticipating for a while something bad's going to happen. Israel's coming across the river. But the people of Israel, God keeps having to remind them to be strong, to be courageous. He has to remind, he'd already given victories to Joshua. He'd already fulfilled exactly the promise. Listen, you and Caleb are the only two that are going to survive. Everybody else is going to die. Joshua had already seen them walk across on dry ground. Joshua had already, God had fed the people for 40 years, dropping food out of heaven. Right? He'd already given them an incredible victory over the Amorites when they should not have won a battle that they were not equipped for. God had done so many amazing things. And yet, when it's all done, God has to come to Caleb or Joshua and go, okay, listen, be strong and courageous.
And I think I read in there that's between 6 and 9. Is it 3 times he says it? Be strong. 3 different times that he says, be strong and courageous. And, in scripture reading, whenever there's a repetition like for 3, for example, the number 3 is a very important, we see that a lot throughout scripture. The time three of something being said has a lot of significance throughout, from beginning to end. So it's very important, but it is funny because you're like you're saying, Jeff, like, when you think that they would know, right? But no, they need to be reminded to be strong and courageous. And then he ends the verse by saying, "For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And for me, I was thinking about this because I have one of my daughters is a very she's a little bit of a nervous Nelly, a little bit anxious spirit ever since she was younger. I don't know, ever since she was little, she was afraid.
A little more cautious.
Yes, a little more cautious. Yes, a little more cautious. Everything she does just overthinks things, And I remember she had this, we had this time where this is like the verse that she like adopted as like a 5-year-old. We'd read it over before she'd go to bed. "The Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And so I'd have her repeat this.
That's great.
This saying, I would actually say, I would have her say, I'd say nightly, you have to say this after me. Say, "I am brave, I am strong, I'm not afraid, God is with me." And so it became like a thing. I'm brave, I am strong, I'm not afraid, God is with me. It became like a mantra before she go to bed. So sometimes I'd go in a room like nightly, what do we say? She's like, I'm brave, I'm strong, I'm not afraid.
That's
God is with me.
fantastic.
And she'd say it sometimes through tears,
Right.
but it's interesting because it's like, it's one thing to say those things. It's a different thing to believe them. And I think what God was trying to do is get them to believe that, hey, you have to, here's some things to do, be strong, courageous. And then also I'm going to be with you wherever you go. And I've been with you wherever you've gone.
Right.
So I'm sure that was very reassuring for them.
The other thing that really jumps out at me is how faithful Joshua was in sticking with it for 39 years. Joshua he could already see the promised land.
Yeah.
He could already envision, he and Caleb both could already envision all the land flowing with milk and honey and all the blessings of God, that God would fulfill all of his promises. But then the people said no. And instead of Caleb and Joshua just grabbing their own little army and doing their own invasion or going and taking their own village, they stayed with the people of Israel.
Yeah.
And, I think a lot of times people bail. They bail on their church. They bail on their small group. They bail on their ministry team when one little conflict comes up or one tension. Oh, my goodness, this little tense moment lasted for 6 months or it lasted a year. I'm bailing.
Yeah, 39 years.
39 years. But you know what happens at the end of that 39 years? Joshua is the leader of 2 million people. And God is going to fulfill every single promise that Joshua believed he would have fulfilled 39 years ago. God is going to fulfill those things now. And I think that there's something to be said about somebody who's faithful to their people, faithful to their family, faithful to their tribe, even when the other people just can't. It's not that he went ahead with them and went ahead and doubted God, and he was still faithful. He still served Moses right. He still looked forward to the promised land. He did the right thing all along. He didn't go ahead and concede to them, but what he didn't do is he didn't give up on them either.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's really good.
And there's something to that, to just say, hey, you know what? I think we bail on marriages too fast.
100%.
We bail on friendships too quickly.
Yep.
We bail on career opportunities too fast. We bail on our jobs. We bail on our ministries. We bail on our churches. We bail so fast on stuff, as opposed to just going, hey, if this is where God has me today, I'm just going to be faithful here.
Yeah.
And at the end, God gave Caleb everything he wanted, and God gave Joshua the entire nation, and trusted him to lead the people. And there's something honorable about that.
And I remember hearing something recently. They referred to the generation, probably actually more the millennial, as the unfollow generation, because we've grown up in a society where you can just, if somebody you disagree with,
unfollow.
you just unfollow, or cancel culture, that sort of thing. But the unfollow, I remember that sticking with me. Just that idea of like, hey, you're dead to me, you're done with me. And I think you're right. Like, I think it's so easy with a church, small group, family, friend, just to cut somebody off over one or something small. Right. And even for me, I'll be honest, like, I remember in my church experience I had actually bounced around from church to church for a little bit. And I remember somebody that I really looked up to a lot finally kind of challenged me. He said, hey, the next place you go to, you need to like put in roots and just see the fruit of that and the outpouring of what God's going to do with your faithfulness. And even for me, I mean, I've loved being, the church we're both a part of. It's our local church here in Michigan, and I love being a part of it. But even being asked for the new Stony Creek campus, which is open up this fall, I remember just like it was kind of interesting because I didn't really pursue that. I mean, I when it was being discussed about the new campus, I had people coming to me saying, "Well, for sure you're going to be," and I'm like, "No, I'm just doing my job. I'm trying to keep my head down and be." Right. I'm not going to be the person who in the past would have been striving for the next thing. I was like, I'm just going to keep my head down and just keep, and it's been really cool. Again, just with God's faithfulness, I think it's shown that like there's something to that. Now, I didn't have to wait 39 years, but you see this and you're like, man, what a beautiful principle of the fact that he was faithful. He served underneath Moses' leadership. And then when the time came, God used Joshua in a big way. I
can remember many years ago, I was 34 when I came to Heritage Church, right? And, so the church doubled and doubled again in 4 years. So we went from 245 people to 1,000 people in 4 years.
Wow.
And through a series of events, I wound up getting invited to this thing that Rick Warren was hosting with a few pastors out in California. And so I was the young guy because all of Rick's friends were, 15, 20 years older than me. So I was the youngest pastor in that group at that time. No, it was me and one other guy from Arizona. And Rick came over at one point and just sat down. He said, hey, tell me your story. How do I not know you? Whatever. So I start talking about things, and he goes, hey, that's pretty great. 4 years, man. This is God's got you on a pretty great journey. He said, you want to know what the real test of your character and who you really are is? And I said, what? And he said the greatest churches are led by pastors that have been there for 15 years or more. He said, so talk to me when you're 54.
Wow.
Right?
How old are you now?
I remember, I'm 53.
Okay, there you go.
Right? So he said, the greatest churches are not the ones that spring up fast and just some guy that can do a thing
Flash
quickly.
in the pan,
It's the person who is able to lead well for a long period of time and consistent growth over long periods of time and building up disciples. And there's a faithfulness thing to it. And I can tell you this. The things that used to stress me out when I was 34 and I didn't even know the answer, now literally I can make that decision in 5 minutes on a Tuesday morning. Right? Yeah. Just because I have so much more experience. Sticking with it. I instinctively know the politics of our organization well. I know who the power players are. I know where the tension points are going to be. I know what we're doing well and what we're not yet doing well. I know where our vulnerabilities are. I see all those things because I've been here so long.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's just something to that. And I think that the reason why God chose Joshua instead of going out and going on Indeed and just trying to find some leader that's available right now was because Joshua understood the intricacies, the ins and outs, because he was faithful for so long, just staying there. And if you want to accomplish something really great with God, a part of that in ministry is just being able to stick with it and being faithful for a long period of time.
Dude, that's good.
And that's what happened. So he was there 40 years. That's the unspoken thing here, by the way. So having wandered with Moses for 40 years, then Moses dies. He faithfully serves. He doesn't pull off a coup.
Yeah.
Moses chooses him. Then God says, be strong and courageous. Then he says, meditate on my word all the time. Memorize it, learn it, know it. Make all of your decisions based on the word. Obey everything I commanded you. Be strong and courageous. And I'll make you succeed in everything you do.
Yeah.
Right? He brackets this strong and courageous. Squeezed in the middle is obey and know my words and obey everything I say, and I'll make you outrageously successful. But all of that, none of that promise would have been made if he hadn't been faithful for 40 years first.
Dude, that's good. Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
Good wisdom.
That's super good stuff, man. That's why I love this passage. We could talk about this for the rest of the week if we wanted to, but we got to wrap it up there, man. Dig into the book of Joshua. I think you're going to love it as a reader, as a listener. And we're going to continue tomorrow in the book of Joshua here on the Bible Guys.
Yep. See you tomorrow.